The word transformed comes from the Greek word metamorphosis, which means to change into another form, such as a caterpillar into a butterfly. Transformation is a universal constant that affects our lives from the moment we are born until we leave this earthly existence behind. Transformation comes in various forms, but usually it's with an improvement in some way, such as the act of changing a dark dressing room into a bright, cheerful, useful space, or a change of attitude from morose to cheerful, or conservative to liberal, or from a system of belief that has a dogmatic creed to the freedom of Unitarian Universalism. The people who come into our lives help us transform. As we intersect, we journey together for a while with some and longer with others. As some encounters last a season or a lifetime together. We have highs and lows, and hopefully we're able to share these as well as the joy and pain that occur. However, who we share these events with throughout life is not constant, because it means entering into the realms of the unknown. And more often than not, the thought of change evokes feelings of discomfort and fear, even when the change is desired. The consternation is caused by the discomfort of not knowing what will happen next, when in actuality, none of us knows what will happen next, no matter how much planning we do. Some changes may involve the mundane, such as a new career, marriage, or ending a relationship or divorce. As life-altering as all of these changes are, there are some changes that occur from within. The changes that the mystic Khalil Gibran informs that we all must experience at some point in our lives. He describes that experience as the breaking of the shell that encloses understanding. It means shedding of the old with the emergence of a renewal of spirit. With spiritual transformation comes a deeper, more joyful, peaceful, loving approach to relationships with others and with the holy. Spiritual transformation holds a wide embrace for personal renewals that comes with healing and wholeness. The refusal to admit change into our lives is a major obstacle to transitions and transformations. Sometimes we cling tenaciously to our habitual way of doing things, resisting anything new, though through indecisiveness, vacillating back and forth between doubt and fear. You see, fear is one of our most primal emotions because it's meant to keep us from harm. And without it, we would have ceased to exist as a species. However, I'm speaking of a deeper inward fear that prevents us from becoming our integrated, undivided selves. in a reflection of our image of the holy. Now, I understand that this is not easy for some folks to do because many have been scarred and broken along the way, and consciously or unconsciously are not open to trusting again. And it's only natural to avoid touching the tender places. But the primary goal of the life of the church is about transformation. We're here to help grow our souls together. But so many of us are afraid to go deeper because there's a fear of being judged and a fear of being rejected. But as we release that which no longer serves us, letting go of the excess baggage, we become lighter, more loving, and more of who we truly are. Since spiritual transformation begins within, there must be a shift in consciousness for transformation to occur. Now, Lyle Schaller, author of Discontinuity and Hope, suggests that when we're faced with the challenges of change, that we ask ourselves whether we see the change as a source of hope or despair. Not discomfort, but despair. Because we're here to embody our principles and our covenant with one another, not just to be comfortable. The way in which you see these challenges will be determined by the way you see yourself as living under the threat of change or looking forward eagerly to the hope of change. Feeling the challenge means that we are alive, connected with the world, with our dreams, our visions, and our strengths. Now, Robert Burnett, author of Finding Yourself in Transition, writes that each of us who's going through a transition is a potential hero. Because, he says, we're leaving our familiar world behind to venture into unmapped territory, not knowing what fate befalls us. He continues by likening us to the ancient mythological hero, the dragon slayer. Because, he says, we will encounter dragons of self-doubt and fear. And we'll engage in the fierce battles within our own souls. But ultimately, if we persist, we will discover the treasure. Now, this is the time of year that raises a heightened awareness around the fear of change. Because September begins the new church year. Students are going off to school. In some cases, young adults are heading off to university for the first time, leaving some empty nest. Many of us are revving up to create changes, and while it's a time for rejoicing, some of the joy is tempered by fear. Fear that we may not be able to make change happen or adjust to the changes that are happening in spite of ourselves. I know that I'm not alone when I suggest that I liken that fear to the feelings that we have when we decide to undertake a healthier way of living, to be physically fit, by changing our diets and getting more exercise. When we decide to do this, we know what we want and may even have a plan for achieving it, but we're fearful that we won't be able to do it. But is it any wonder that we allow fear to polarize us into inaction? Fear has become a way of life in contemporary society. New programs and reports are saturated with fears that in many cases are unfounded. We're torn apart by threats from everything, including the latest virus, to political bipartisanism, freedom of choices in everything from the style of preaching and worship to the people that we choose to love and marry. In all of the chaos, we lose all sense of who we truly are, allowing our sparks of light to become shrouded in despair and hopelessness, losing sight of the connection to our higher selves. Fear of the stranger separates. Fear of dying keeps us from truly living our lives to the fullness. And fear prevents us from realizing our dreams through complete actualization and becoming transformed. However, that rejection is minute when compared to the punishment of living an inauthentic life, a divided self, with the facade that we show to others. How can we compare the opinions of others to the tragedy of a life unrealized? Out of fear and desperation, a spiritual rebirth can emerge. When we fear something, we either move away from it or we move through it and learn. And sometimes we are transformed. The world is filled with fearmongers, with the sole purpose of dividing us by race and class. So we need the love and support of each other now more than ever. There will always be something to fear. However, we must remember that we are all endowed with a spark of divinity that we can choose to use while lifting each other up when coming together in the midst of pain and sorrow. This ability to live creatively in the midst of our fears is what theologian Paul Tillich calls the courage to be. It's risky to let love in. However, living inauthentically without love and light deadens the spirit within. Ralph Waldo Emerson informed in The Oversoul that within each of us lies the soul of the whole. Therefore, it's our choice to signal spirit that we are willing to choose transformation. When we cease resisting and regarding change as an opportunity to grow, we often find ourselves far from being helpless in the face of it. However, to make change work for us, it's necessary to look at situations constructively while looking at the benefits of transformation. We must also recognize that, like our physical health, we may not consistently do what's best, but we always have the opportunity to try again and again. There are always opportunities for transformation within communities of faith like this one. And at this time in the life of uuflb, you are poised on the precipice for great change. You will have the opportunity to reevaluate plans and goals for the future. Now, to some, this may appear scary, but optimism, enthusiasm, and flexibility will aid you, because there is nothing to be gained by dwelling on what might have been. The future of this community of faith depends on choosing to make change work in our favor. Moreover, if you are willing to embrace change proactively, its lasting effects will always be emotionally, spiritually, and intellectually transformative. Choose to see this challenge of transition as a source of hope, and choose to visualize a healthy sense of wholeness for this community of faith. From my heart to yours, may it be so.